one of those online platforms
Oh,
where
she's a grammar. It's all
she
about the
doesn't
gram.
she doesn't get censored.
Hmm.
Talking about the need for media literacy and even invoking a favorite phrase of the left, Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into.
She's going to be the arbiter of what's true. She and her squad members, the arbiter of what's true. That functionally should be interesting.
The right doesn't have a voice right now. What is she talking about?
Joy Reid over at MSNBC called for the debathification of the Republican Party.
Oh.
That's an interesting invocation. Tom Nichols, who is a member of the USA Board of Contributors, USA Today Board of Contributors, and an advisor to the Lincoln Project, the home of some of the most angry individuals and vile rhetoric that is available in the public arena at present. Tom Nichols writes, the president's supporters now plead for understanding and inclusion, for lowering the temperature, for moving on. This is moral charlatanism, and I say to hell with it. It's almost impossible to comprehend the sheer moral poverty of the people calling now for unity. I mean, except Joe Biden, I guess, for Tom Nichols. Elected Republicans now admit they fear for their physical safety from their own constituents, but instead of thunderous defenses of the Constitution, we have soft mewling from people like Marco Rubio and his Bible verse a day tweets, or the head-spinning duplicity of Senator Lindsey Graham. So there's no unity available. There's no inclusion or understanding available for Trump voters, Trump supporters, until and unless they make amends for what they did by supporting Trump.
Well, at Harvard University, students are circulating a petition that calls for revoking degrees, Dan, from Trump supporters and aides who attended that elite institution, whatever. But the reason they said, according to a copy of the petition, that supporters of President Trump were involved in spreading disinformation and mistrust that led to last week's deadly riot.
For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined again by Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, host of Special Report, 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Chicago time, of course, and also the author of 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble to Win World War II. That's a bestseller. Bret, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Media Literacy Commission, to make sure you're not saying anything that is factually incorrect. Government Commission. Debathification of the Republican Party. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going down a really bad road, and I think people realize that, but we have to talk about it and point a spotlight at it. Some of the things being said over the past few days are really startling. When a TV host in a primetime show says that the 74-plus million people that voted for Donald Trump are on the side of the Klan, are on the side of xenophobia, are on the side of, violence, that's really something. I hate the whole thing of the hypocrisy of look at what the left did or didn't say when the BLM and the riots around the George Floyd stuff. I mean, I hate it just because it's true, but it's that's the argument. But I think it's more clear cut. I mean, now is a moment where clearly last Wednesday changed the dynamic, and the Trump power base changed. But instead of absorbing that and moving on as a country and kind of trying to get out after that, the critics of the president are going for the full-on chop the head off the snake, let's put this behind us, to make the people who supported Donald Trump feel like they're somehow lesser because they did, because of last Wednesday and the actions of the rioters. I think that that's misplaced and actually dangerous to the other way. Could fire people up to, do something else. And I just think it's not a smart way to approach it.
Well, I think that's sort of what Andy Biggs, representative from Arizona, said yesterday during the impeachment debate, or Wednesday during the impeachment debate, where he said, what you're doing is you're making a martyr of President Trump. And oh, by the way, as more information comes out about just exactly what went down and who the responsible parties are with respect to the assault on the Capitol, and yes, there were certainly Trump supporters in the Capitol, but you had an arrest of a Black Lives Matter Antifa activist, John Sullivan, by the FBI. You've got stories now all over the place about information that federal law enforcement had in terms of pre-planning. Get the FBI talking about charging a conspiracy case. They're talking about a conspiracy case that necessarily implicates pre-planning. So that's only going to further enrage the caricature of what happened on January 6th as representative, the people who are reject the caricature of what happened on January 6th as representative of 75 million people who voted for Trump.
Yeah, I would be careful about characterizing, the people who have been arrested. There was the one guy, John Sullivan, who told authorities when he was arrested that he was documenting it. Whatever, we can look into that case, right? But for the most part of the dozens and dozens of people arrested, they are tied to QAnon and far-right militant or militia groups. And so that's going to be a problem. We have to look just case by case who was in there, who instigated it, and why.
Right.
But to paint with a broad brush for anybody, to say that all 75 million Trump supporters have the blood of that police officer on their hand because they voted the way they voted is such a sweeping kind of statement. It's sad. The best thing that we can do is take the temperature down and report on facts.
Well, here's the thing. So do you think it's in President Trump and our country's best interest for him to skip the inauguration? I mean, KT McFarland was on the show and she said, how we're going to unify this country, we need Biden and Trump to get together.
Yeah. I'm not advising him. I'm covering him, but I would have gone to the inauguration no matter what. I mean, I would have said, if I'm really behind a peaceful transfer of power, right, there should be a visual of that transfer of power. But he's choosing not to.
And so, Bret, how is this going to work? Because the inauguration is going to happen, and then 2 hours later, they're going to begin the impeachment trial against President Trump. I mean, that's on all that on the same day?
Yeah, this is the weird part about this, is that so the president leaves office, and then this trial starts in the Senate. And, I'm just wondering whether Biden is going to say, listen, Chuck Schumer, I know you have your marching orders, but we need to get this agenda through. And yes, you can walk and chew gum, but maybe we should not focus on the trial. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Maybe it will.
I think it's going to be very difficult for Biden to pull them back from the brink. And by the way, that's just not who Biden is. I mean, Biden is, he's a guy who goes where the wind blows. So we'll see. One of the other things, though, too, I mean, there's real disagreement about whether it is constitutional for the Senate to hold an impeachment trial after the president has left office, and I wonder if that gets litigated and provides some interruption to that trial.
Well, clearly, the way it was voted in the House, there were not committee hearings, there was not testimony, there was not. Both sides. That's usually the grand jury. The House is the grand jury, and then the trial itself is in the Senate. Either way they do it, it doesn't appear like it's set up to be a full-blown trial. And nor do I think the country at that point, once Trump has left, is in any mode to sit there and wade through exactly what was said and relitigate that speech on the National Mall. We'll see what happens. I think there's a chance that something changes between now and January 20th.
One question that John Solomon has raised, John Solomon from justthenews.com has raised, I think is a good one, is was it an intelligence failure, or are Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi not telling us something about what was known and should have been known pre-assault on the Capitol? Meaning that if federal law enforcement had an idea, like they do in advance of the inauguration through chatter and the monitoring they do, that something nefarious was afoot, then either that was communicated to Capitol Police, to the sergeant at arms of the two chambers, or it wasn't. If it wasn't, then it's a communication failure. If it was, then Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell haven't been forthright about it.
I still think there's a lot we don't know, and we every day seem to get more information on the severity of it. But as far as what was known and exactly what they did about that, I think there's a lot that we don't know. As far as the why was the security presence the way it was? Why wasn't it where it was for some of the other marches? Why, the head of security, the son of the sergeant of arms, committed suicide? There's just a lot that we don't know. And I do know that watching these videos, the police officers who were there performed valiantly to prevent, first of all, the senators and congressmen and women to get to safety.
Before we let you go, I know there was a charity event you wanted to mention, so please mention that.
Oh, yeah. So we do this event every year in Naples, but now because we had to do virtual, it's going to be open for everybody. And it's really great. I've got Brian Kilmeade and Charles Payne, Shannon Bream, Emily Campagno, and me. We'll do a panel discussion with the viewers' questions, all people's questions who get tickets. And we've got performances and then an auction. All goes raise money for Children's National, which saved my son's life now 4 times. And it's allstarpanelevent.com, allstarpanelevent.com. And you get tickets, and it's a virtual event. But the biggest thing is that there are all kinds of auction items like Zoom calls with talent or stars, or somebody could do your phone message, recording, and whatever. We're going to raise a lot of money. We're going to do it virtual, and we'll be live again next year.
That's great. The website again, allstarpanels.com.
Allstarpanelevent.
Allstarpanelevent.com.
Oh, allstarpanelevent.com. Okay, allstarpanelevent.com, allstarpanelevent.com. I'll
Say it
repeat
again.
it. Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, 5 p.m. weekdays, Chicago time. Also author of the #1 bestseller, 3 Days at the Brink. Bret, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Okay, see you guys.
Thanks, and good luck with your fundraiser. Allstarpanelevent.com. And Bret Baier joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Steve Cortez here. Small business owners and those of you who make marketing decisions for businesses, listen up. 2021 is here. How's your marketing plan? 2020